Commander Vex'tar of the Korvanian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive blue planet slowly rotate on his tactical display. His 4 eyes narrowed with predatory satisfaction as he studied the readings. After 3 cycles of careful observation, they had finally found the perfect specimens. "Sir," his tactical officer, Sub-Commander Rex, approached with the cautious gait all subordinates used around Vex'tar. "The hunting party is prepared. 20 of our finest warriors, armed with neural disruptors and containment fields." Vex'tar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "The neural disruptors? For these soft, bipedal creatures?"
Yet, it was almost insulting to his warriors' skills. But protocol was protocol, and the science division had been very specific about wanting the humans alive and undamaged.
"Excellent. Target the female settlements. The males are too aggressive and damage easily. We need breeding stock that will survive the transport to the arena worlds." He paused, savoring the thought. Besides, female specimens always fetch higher prices in the gladiator markets. The hunting party descended through Earth's atmosphere in stealth pods, their destination a small human settlement called Millbrook. According to their intelligence, it was a farming community with minimal defensive capabilities, perfect for a quick snatch-and-grab operation. Vex'tar had chosen to lead this hunt personally. It had been too long since he'd felt the thrill of stalking prey, and these humans promised to be entertaining. Their preliminary scans showed they were remarkably fragile creatures, with soft skin, brittle bones, and reaction times that bordered on laughable. The pods touched down in a wooded area just outside the settlement under cover of darkness. 20 Korvanian warriors emerged, each standing nearly 3 meters tall, their exoskeletons gleaming in the moonlight. They moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, thermal vision activated, weapons humming with barely contained energy. "Remember," Vex'tar transmitted to his team through their neural link, "we want them alive. Minimal damage. The arena masters pay premium rates for unblemished specimens." They approached the first structure, a modest dwelling with warm yellow light spilling from its windows. Through their thermal imaging, they could see 3 heat signatures inside, 2 adults and what appeared to be a smaller form, likely offspring. Warrior Kaxon reached the door first, his massive clawed hand easily crushing the primitive locking mechanism. The door swung open with a pathetic creak that made several warriors chitter in amusement. These humans couldn't even build proper barriers. Inside, they found their first specimens. The male human was seated at a wooden table, staring at some sort of primitive display screen. He looked up with an expression of confusion that quickly shifted to terror as 20 alien predators filled his living space. His mouth opened, presumably to vocalize some sort of alarm. But Kaxon's neural disruptors silenced him before any sound could emerge. The male collapsed, unconscious but breathing. "One down," Kaxon reported with satisfaction. The female specimen appeared in a doorway, and Vex'tar had to admit she was interesting. Unlike the cowering male, she didn't scream or freeze. Instead, she took one look at the situation and immediately began moving, her eyes scanning for exits and potential weapons with a calculated intensity that surprised him. "Hello there, little morsel," Vex'tar said, his translator converting his words into her primitive language. "Don't worry, this will only hurt if you resist." The female's name was Maya Chen, though of course the aliens didn't know this. What they also didn't know was that Maya had spent 6 years in the Marine Corps and another 4 as a private security contractor in some of the world's most dangerous places. She'd been expecting a quiet evening catching up on paperwork, not an alien home invasion. Maya's tactical mind processed the situation in milliseconds. 20 hostiles, unknown capabilities, unknown weapons. Her daughter was upstairs, hopefully still asleep. Her husband was down, but breathing. Multiple exits were blocked. She was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing completely unknown opposition. In other words, it was Tuesday. "Tommy, if you can hear me, stay down and don't move," she called softly to her husband, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Vex'tar was impressed. Most prey species would be gibbering in terror by now. This female showed remarkable composure. She might actually provide decent entertainment in the arena before the inevitable outcome. "Your compliance is not required," he informed her, gesturing to 2 of his warriors, "but it would make this easier for everyone involved." Maya watched as 2 of the massive creatures approached her. They moved with predatory confidence, clearly expecting her to either flee or collapse like her husband had. Their mistake was assuming she was prey. The first warrior, designated Zeph by his pack, reached for her with a clawed appendage designed to easily subdue struggling captives. His species had been apex predators on their homeworld for millennia. No creature had ever successfully resisted their grasp. Maya let him get close. Let him think he had her. Then she moved. What happened next would be discussed in Korvanian military academies for generations, usually in the context of what not to underestimate about primitive species. Maya grabbed Zeph's extended arm, used his own momentum against him, and threw him over her shoulder with a perfect judo throw. 300 kilograms of alien predator slammed into the floor hard enough to crack the wooden boards. Before he could recover, she had pivoted and driven her elbow into the second warrior's solar plexus with surgical precision. The second warrior, Nex, doubled over in surprise and pain. He'd been expecting to grab a helpless female, not receive a master class in human combat techniques.
Maya didn't give him time to adapt.
She grabbed his head and brought her knee up, connecting with what she hoped was something important. It was. Nex collapsed, his internal organs rearranged in ways his species' evolution had never prepared for. Interesting. Vex'tar mused, watching his two warriors struggle to regain their footing. The female has some basic combat training. How quaint. Maya had backed toward the stairs, her eyes never leaving the remaining 18 aliens. She'd bought herself maybe 30 seconds. But that was 30 seconds her daughter might use to hide or escape. "Kelsey," she shouted upstairs, "lock your door and call 911. 8-year-old Kelsey was already awake, having heard the commotion downstairs. But unlike most children, she'd been trained by her mother to handle emergencies. Instead of crying or panicking, she was already following the emergency protocol Maya had drilled into her since she could walk. Vex'tar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The female was proving more troublesome than anticipated. "Time to end this charade. Enough games," he declared, raising his own weapon. "Stun her and let's collect our prizes." That was when Maya smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized her enemies had made a critical error in judgment. They thought they were hunting helpless prey. They thought Earth's dominant species was soft, weak, unprepared. They were about to learn why humans had clawed their way to the top of their planet's food chain, despite having no natural weapons, no armor, and no apparent predatory advantages. "You know what your problem is?" Maya asked, her voice conversational despite the circumstances. "You think this is a hunt?" She moved again, this time with lethal intent. The third warrior to approach her was designated Coax, and he'd learned from his packmate's mistakes. He came at her with his neural disruptor raised, intending to end this before she could use more of her primitive combat techniques. Maya was already moving before he'd finished raising the weapon. She closed the distance in 2 quick steps, batting the device aside and driving her fist into what looked like his throat. Rokanons made a strangled sound and stumbled backward, his weapon clattering to the floor. "Grokan, Sepkut forward, Bolarishin, Dugunak Subble." Before the other warriors could react, Maya had scooped up the dropped weapon and was examining it with the practiced eye of someone familiar with military hardware. "Energy weapon," she muttered. "Hold, probably non-lethal based on the wide beam emitter. Safety switch, there. Power setting, and that's maximum." She flipped the safety off and cranked the power to its highest setting. "Now," she said, her voice carrying the cold professional tone that had made enemy combatants nervous from Afghanistan to Somalia, "let's discuss the terms of your surrender." Vex'tar stared at the primitive female holding one of their weapons like she'd been trained on it. All this was unprecedented. No prey species had ever successfully reverse-engineered Korvanian technology in combat conditions. It should have been impossible. "You don't understand what you're holding," he warned her. "That weapon requires specific neural patterns to operate. Your primitive brain cannot interface with our technology." Maya's smile widened. "Want to bet?" She pulled the trigger. The energy beam struck Warrior Dex center mass and he collapsed immediately. The weapon's safety protocols designed to prevent accidental lethal discharge had been disabled when she maxed out the power setting. What should have been a stunning pulse became something considerably more permanent. The remaining warriors exchanged glances. This wasn't going according to plan. "Perhaps we should reconsider our approach," Sub-Commander Rex suggested through their neural link. "The female appears more dangerous than our intelligence indicated." "Nonsense," Vex'tar replied. "She got lucky. Overwhelm her with numbers." 5 warriors moved at once, approaching from different angles to prevent her from using their formations against them. It was a sound tactical decision that would have worked against any normal opponent. Maya wasn't normal. She dove behind the couch as energy beams scorched the air where she'd been standing. Her mind was already calculating angles, distances, and optimal firing positions. The aliens were skilled hunters, but they were hunting prey that didn't exist. Humans weren't prey. Humans were persistence predators who had evolved to hunt creatures bigger, stronger, and faster than themselves. They were tool users who could adapt to any environment and turn anything into a weapon. Most importantly, they were the only species on their planet that hunted for reasons other than survival. Sometimes, they hunted for fun. Maya rolled out from behind the couch, the alien weapon tracking smoothly as she acquired her targets. 2 quick shots dropped 2 more warriors before they could adjust their aim. Ram! What a big adjust their aim. A third warrior tried to flank her, but she'd already anticipated the movement and put him down with a shot that would have made her old Marine instructors proud. Impossible, Vex'tar breathed. No single creature should be able to coordinate such complex tactical thinking under combat stress. Maya heard him through the weapons translation system and laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. Lady, you have no idea what humans are capable of when you threaten their families. She was moving again, using the furniture and room's layout to break line of sight and force the aliens to split their attention. Every movement was calculated, every shot precisely aimed. This wasn't desperate fighting. This was surgical warfare by someone who had made a career of turning impossible odds into manageable problems. Warrior Jex tried to circle around behind her, but Maya had already identified his position through the reflection in the window glass. She spun and fired without seeming to aim, catching him in the chest with a blast that sent him crashing through the kitchen doorway. 12 down, she announced cheerfully. 8 to go. Anyone else want to discuss surrender terms? Vex'tar's 4 eyes were wide with something approaching panic. This was supposed to be a simple collection mission. Grab some breeding stock, return to the ship, collect payment. Instead, he was watching his elite hunting pack get systematically dismantled by a single female of a species they'd classified as minimal threat level. All units, converge on the female, he ordered. Use maximum force. Sir, Rex protested. You said minimal damage. The arena masters won't pay premium rates for damaged goods. Forget the arena masters. Vex'tar snarled. I want this creature dead before it kills any more of my warriors. Maya had been listening to their translated conversation through the captured weapon, and she shook her head in mock disappointment. That's your second mistake, she called out. The first was coming to my house. The second was threatening my daughter. Footsteps sounded on the stairs behind her. Maya spun, weapon raised, then lowered it as she saw her husband Tommy slowly descending, his face pale but determined. Maya, he said quietly. I called the police. They're on their way. Good. Take Kelsey, and get to the neighbor's house. Use the back door. What about you? Maya looked at the remaining 8 alien warriors, who were regrouping near the front entrance. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I'm going to teach our visitors why you don't mess with a Marine's family. The aliens were conferring in their chittering language, probably planning some sort of coordinated assault. Maya used the time to check her weapon's power level and count her remaining shots. Math had never been her favorite subject, but the current equation was simple enough. 8 aliens, 6 shots remaining. 2 would have to be handled the old-fashioned way. She could work with those odds. Tommy, go. Now. Her husband nodded and headed for the back of the house. A few seconds later, she heard the rear door open and close quietly. Good. Her family was safe. Now she could focus on the problem at hand. The problem being 8 3-meter-tall alien predators who had made the mistake of thinking humans were helpless. All right, boys, Maya announced, checking the weapons targeting system. Class is in session. Today's lesson is why Earth is still run by humans despite having some of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy living right next door. She paused, considering her words. Actually, scratch that. Today's lesson is why we are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The aliens resumed their advance, and Maya smiled. Class was about to begin. The remaining 8 Korvanian warriors spread out in a tactical formation that had served their species well for thousands of years. It was designed to corner prey, eliminate escape routes, and ensure a quick, clean kill. Against any normal opponent, it would have been devastating. Maya wasn't any normal opponent. She watched them move with the detached interest of a professional studying her craft. 2 flanking left, 2 flanking right, 3 advancing center, and Vex'tar hanging back to coordinate. Standard predator pack behavior, probably hardwired into their DNA. You know what's funny about pack hunters? Maya called out, her voice echoing through the house. They're absolutely lethal against prey that runs in straight lines, but they get real confused when the prey starts thinking tactically. Warrior Rex, leading the left flank, snarled something in his native tongue that the translator mercifully didn't convert. Maya could guess the general sentiment. "Oh, I'm sorry," she continued, backing toward the kitchen. "Did I hurt your feelings? Here's a thought. Maybe don't break into people's houses at midnight if you can't handle the consequences." She fired 2 quick shots, dropping the lead warriors on each flank. Holper. The remaining 6 hesitated, suddenly realizing their formation was compromised. Holper. That hesitation cost them. Maya was already moving, using the kitchen island as cover, while she repositioned. The alien's thermal vision was impressive, but it couldn't track her through solid objects, and Maya knew her house better than they did. 4 shots left, she announced cheerfully. 6 targets. Someone's going to have to share. Vex'tar's mandibles clicked frantically as he tried to process what he was witnessing. This female had taken down 12 of his elite warriors in under 10 minutes. 12 warriors who had conquered 17 different worlds. 12 apex predators who had never met their match. And she was enjoying it. Sir Sub-Commander Rex whispered through their neural link, "Perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. The local authorities will arrive soon, and we're losing too many warriors." "Absolutely not," Vex'tar hissed back. "I will not be defeated by a single primitive female. The shame would follow us across the galaxy." Maya caught the exchange through her captured weapons translation system and laughed out loud. "Oh, this is rich. You're worried about being embarrassed? Buddy, you just got your elite hunting party schooled by a soccer mom from Ohio. The embarrassment ship has sailed, crashed into an iceberg, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean." Warrior Tex, advancing from the right side, decided he'd heard enough taunting. He charged directly at Maya's position, betting his superior size and strength would overcome her tactical advantages in close combat. It was a terrible bet. Maya waited until he committed to his attack vector, then stepped aside at the last possible moment. Tex's momentum carried him past her, and she helped him along with a well-placed kick that sent him crashing into her refrigerator. The impact was so violent that the appliance tipped over, pinning the warrior underneath half a ton of metal and spoiled leftovers. "One down the old-fashioned way," Maya muttered. 5 to go. The remaining warriors were beginning to show signs of something Korvanians rarely experienced. Fear. They exchanged glances, chittered nervously, and began moving with less confidence. Their prey had become the predator, and they didn't know how to handle the role reversal. Maya sensed their growing uncertainty and decided to press her advantage. "You know what your real problem is?" she asked, moving to a new position behind the kitchen counter. "You've been apex predators for so long you've forgotten what it's like to fight something that fights back." She fired 3 precise shots, each one finding its mark. 3 more warriors collapsed, their advanced armor proving useless against weapons designed by their own species. That left 2 warriors plus Vex'tar himself. 1 shot left, Maya announced. 3 targets. This should be interesting. The 2 remaining warriors, Pex and Kex, looked to their commander for guidance. Vex'tar's 4 eyes were wild with something approaching madness. His perfect raid had become a complete disaster, and it was all because of one primitive female who refused to behave like proper prey. "Rush her together," he commanded. "She can't stop all of us." It was sound tactical thinking. Maya had 1 shot left, and even if she hit one of them, the other 2 would reach her. At close range, her small frame would be no match for their size and strength. Maya smiled as she heard the plan through her translator. "You're right," she admitted. "I can't stop all 3 of you with 1 shot." She set the alien weapon on the counter and stepped back, her hands empty. "Good thing I don't need to." The 3 aliens stared at her in confusion. Had she finally realized the hopelessness of her situation? Was she surrendering at last? Maya reached behind her back and pulled out something that made all 3 aliens freeze in recognition. Even across species barriers, certain objects had universal meaning. The fragmentation grenade in her hand was definitely one of them. "Surprise," she said sweetly. "I wasn't just a Marine, I was EOD. Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Want to guess what I keep in my emergency kit?" Vex'tar's translator was working overtime, but the meaning was clear enough. The female was holding some sort of explosive device, and from her casual familiarity with it she knew exactly how to use it. "You're bluffing," he declared, though his voice lacked conviction. "You wouldn't detonate that in your own dwelling?"
You'd perish along with us.
Maya's smile turned cold. "Buddy, you threaten my daughter. At this point, I'm perfectly willing to take that risk." She held up the grenade, her thumb resting on the safety pin. The aliens could see her finger positioning, could calculate the blast radius, could estimate their chances of surviving at close range. The math wasn't encouraging. "Of course," Maya continued conversationally, "there's always the option of surrendering, lay down your weapons, assume a non-threatening position, and wait for the local authorities. They'll probably just deport you back to whatever rock you crawled out from under." Pex and Kex exchanged glances, then looked to their commander. Vex'tar's mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The greatest hunt of his career had become the most humiliating defeat in Korvanian military history. And it was all because of one human female who refused to act like prey. "Sir," Rex whispered through their neural link, "the female's tactics suggest extensive military training. This was not random luck. She has been systematically outmaneuvering us from the beginning." "Impossible," Vex'tar replied, but his conviction was cracking. "Our intelligence indicated this was a primitive species with minimal combat capabilities." "Our intelligence," Maya interjected, having heard the exchange through her translator, "was wrong. Dead wrong."
Oh.
"See, the thing about humans is, we're not just tool users.
Oh.
We're weapon makers. We're problem solvers. And when you threaten our families, we become extremely creative problem solvers." She gestured around the room with her free hand indicating the scattered alien warriors. 12 of your best, taken down by one human with basic military training and access to her own kitchen. Want to know what would happen if you tried this stunt on someone who was actually trying to hurt you? The aliens didn't respond, but Maya could see the fear in their multiple eyes. "Better yet," she continued, "want to know what's going to happen when word gets back to Earth's military that hostile aliens are conducting raids on civilian populations?" That got their attention. Vex'tar's translator was working furiously, but the implications were clear even across species barriers. If this primitive world had military forces, and if those forces learned of the raid, "You wouldn't dare involve your military," Vex'tar said, but his voice carried no confidence. "The technological gap is too vast. Your primitive weapons couldn't threaten our ships." Maya laughed and the sound sent shivers down alien spines. "Oh, sweet summer child. You have no idea what humans do to problems that can't be solved with conventional weapons. We get unconventional, real fast." She paused, letting that sink in. "Nuclear weapons ring any bells? Biological warfare? Chemical agents? We've got about 50 different ways to kill things that are bigger and stronger than us, and that's just what we admit to publicly." The grenade was still in her hand, pin still in place, but her thumb hadn't moved. The threat was clear, but she wasn't actively preparing to use it. Yet,
"Here's what's going to happen,"
Maya announced in the tone she'd once used to brief military personnel. "You're going to gather up your unconscious buddies, load them into whatever ship brought you here, and leave. Immediately, you're going to mark Earth as a no-go zone for any future raids, and you're going to pray that I don't decide to file a complaint with my government about tonight's little visit." "And if we refuse?" Vex'tar asked, though his heart wasn't really in the challenge. "Then I drop this grenade. We all go out in a blaze of glory, and Earth's military starts looking for the rest of your friends. Trust me, you don't want that kind of attention." The sound of sirens could be heard in the distance, growing closer. The local authorities Maya's husband had called were finally responding. In a few minutes, this would become an even more complicated situation. "Sir," Rex urged through their neural link, "we need to make a decision. The local enforcement is approaching." Vex'tar looked at the human female standing in her destroyed kitchen, holding a military explosive like it was a casual conversation piece. She had systematically dismantled his elite hunting party, using nothing but superior tactics, captured weapons, and sheer bloody-minded determination. She was magnificent. She was also absolutely terrifying. "We withdraw," he said finally, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. "Smart choice," Maya replied. "And just so we're clear on the terms of this withdrawal, you're going to spread the word when you get home. Earth is off limits. Humans are not prey. We're the kind of predators that other predators have nightmares about." The aliens began gathering their unconscious packmates, moving with the defeated posture of hunters who had become the hunted. Maya watched them work, the grenade still ready in her hand, making sure they didn't try anything clever. "Oh, and one more thing," she called out, as they prepared to leave. "Next time you want to conduct intelligence gathering on a new species, maybe don't rely on whoever told you we were harmless, because that guy clearly never met a human mother protecting her young." Vex'tar paused at the door, looking back at the female who had single-handedly destroyed his career. "What are you?" he asked, genuine curiosity overcoming his defeat. Maya's smile was sharp as a blade. "I'm Maya Chen, formerly Gunnery Sergeant Chen, United States Marine Corps. I'm a mother, a wife, and someone who really doesn't like uninvited guests. But more importantly, I'm what you get when evolution spends 4 billion years creating the perfect persistence predator and then gives it tool-making capabilities and a bad attitude." She paused, considering her words. "In other words, I'm human, and now you know why we're the dominant species on this planet." The aliens finished collecting their wounded and headed for the door. Vex'tar was the last to leave, his multiple eyes still fixed on Maya with something approaching respect. "This is not over," he declared, though the threat lacked conviction. "Yeah, it is," Maya replied calmly, "because if I see any of you on my property again, I won't be nearly this polite." The aliens departed, leaving Maya alone in her destroyed kitchen. She carefully set the grenade on the counter, engaged the safety, and took her first deep breath in 20 minutes. Her hands were shaking slightly, the adrenaline finally catching up with her. The front door opened, and Tommy peered in cautiously. "Maya, the police are here. Are you okay?" She looked around at her ruined home, at the scorch marks and broken furniture, and unconscious alien warriors who were no longer unconscious because their friends had carried them away. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'm okay, but we're gonna need a really good explanation for the insurance company." Mount. Outside, police cars were pulling up, their lights painting the neighborhood in red and blue. Maya could hear her neighbors starting to emerge from their homes, curious about the commotion. It was going to be a long night of explanations, reports, and probably some very confused federal agents. But her family was safe, the aliens were gone, and Earth had just served notice that humanity was not to be trifled with. All in all, Maya thought as she walked toward the front door to meet the police, it had been a pretty good Tuesday. In space aboard the Korvanian flagship, Vex'tar sat in his command chair and stared at the blue planet rotating slowly on his display. His hunting party was being treated in the medical bay, his career was effectively over, and he was going to have to explain to High Command why a simple collection mission had turned into the worst military disaster in recent Korvanian history. But more importantly, he was going to have to update their intelligence files on the species known as humans. The current classification of minimal threat level was going to require some serious revision. "Sub-Commander," he said quietly to Rex, who was nursing his own injuries nearby. "Yes, sir?" "To send a message to all Korvanian vessels. Earth is to be designated as a restricted world. No hunting parties, no raids, no contact of any kind without explicit authorization from High Command. What reason should I give for the restriction, sir?" Vex'tar thought about Maya Chen standing in her destroyed kitchen with a grenade in one hand and death in her eyes, systematically dismantling 12 elite warriors like they were training dummies. "Apex predator world," he said finally. "Inhabitants are hostile, heavily armed, and extremely dangerous. Approach with maximum caution." He paused, then added one final note that would become legendary in Korvanian military circles. "Also note that human females protecting offspring should be considered among the most dangerous creatures in known space. Recommend avoiding engagement at all costs." As the Korvanian ship departed Earth's system, word began to spread through the galactic community's underground networks. A new player had entered the game, and they weren't interested in being anyone's prey. The humans had announced their presence in the most direct way possible, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. Back in Millbrook, Maya Chen finished giving her statement to a very confused police officer, kissed her daughter goodnight, and helped her husband board up the broken windows. Tomorrow, there would be federal agents and military officials, and probably some very interesting conversations about Earth's first official contact with alien life. But tonight, her family was safe, her home was secure, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, a message was being delivered to anyone who might be listening. Earth was protected, and humans were very, very good at protecting what was theirs.